What would you do if your closest friend, someone you've trusted for years, turned out to be plotting your downfall? Victor Kane, a brilliant and ambitious young CEO, stood on the verge of greatness. His company, Quantum Ventures, was just one signature away from a deal that would catapult them to the top of the biotech industry. But on the eve of this monumental achievement, something unexpected happened. A plain, unmarked envelope arrived at Victor's sleek office. Inside was a single piece of paper with a chilling message. "Don't sign the deal. Your friend is not who you think he is." At first, Victor dismissed it as a prank. After all, who would dare question the integrity of Nathan Reed, his co-founder and best friend of over a decade? Together, they had weathered challenges, built an empire, and trusted each other implicitly. But the next morning, another letter appeared. This time, it came with something far more alarming: documents hinting at hidden offshore accounts and mysterious financial discrepancies. The name linked to all of it? Nathan Reed. Victor's initial skepticism began to waver. Was there any truth to these claims? Was his closest ally really capable of such betrayal? And then, there was the most haunting detail of all: a postscript scrawled hastily at the bottom of the second letter. "He's been planning this for years, and if you sign that contract tomorrow, you'll lose everything." Victor's world, once so solid and secure, now felt like it was built on quicksand. But who was behind these warnings? Why were they risking so much to help him? And most importantly, what was Nathan really hiding? The clock was ticking and the answers lay just out of reach. Stick with us, because what Victor uncovers will shock you to your core. If you're ready for twists, betrayals, and an ending you'll never see coming, don't miss this story. And before we dive in, make sure to like this video, share it with friends, and subscribe to our channel for more gripping tales like this one. Victor Kane paced back and forth in his office, the weight of the mysterious letters pressing down on him like an invisible force. The first letter had been unsettling, but the second one? It was impossible to ignore. The documents enclosed weren't just random accusations, they were precise. Account numbers, transactions, even timestamps that matched perfectly with Nathan's recent activities. Victor couldn't shake the feeling that whoever had sent these warnings knew too much to be dismissed. Nathan, as always, was his charismatic self. That morning, they had shared coffee and joked about the future of Quantum Ventures, a future that now seemed clouded with suspicion. Victor couldn't look at him the same way. Every smile, every word from Nathan felt tinged with a hidden motive. That night, as Victor sat alone in his office, he pulled the letters from his desk drawer and spread them out in front of him. His instincts screamed at him to act. But what if he was wrong? Accusing Nathan without proof could destroy their partnership and their friendship. Just as he began to doubt himself, his phone buzzed. It was an anonymous text message. "Check your company's latest expenses. The truth is in plain sight." Victor's heart raced. Without hesitation, he logged into the company's financial system. As he scrolled through the records, his eyes locked onto something peculiar: a series of small but regular payments to a consulting firm he had never approved. The payments were just below the threshold that would require his signature. A sinking feeling settled in his chest as he realized someone inside Quantum Ventures was carefully covering their tracks. He leaned back in his chair, exhaling slowly. Could it really be Nathan? And if it wasn't him, who else could pull off something so meticulous? His thoughts were interrupted by a soft knock at the door. "Come in," Victor called, trying to steady his voice. The door opened, and a young woman stepped inside, clutching a stack of papers. She was familiar. Elena, the part-time courier who often delivered packages to the office. But tonight, there was something different about her. She looked nervous, glancing over her shoulder as though someone might be watching. "Mr. Kane," she began hesitantly, her voice barely above a whisper. I think you should know something." Victor furrowed his brow. "What is it?" Elena stepped closer, holding out an envelope. "I didn't know if I should say anything, but I've been delivering letters like these for weeks now. They're always addressed to you, and they're from someone who wants to stay anonymous. But after tonight, I thought it was time to tell you. Victor took the envelope, his hands trembling slightly. Inside was another warning, shorter this time but no less ominous. The deeper you dig, the worse it gets. Don't trust anyone, not even your closest friend. He stared at the words, the meaning sinking in like a heavy stone. Who gave this to you? He asked, his voice sharper than he intended. Elena hesitated. I don't know their name. They just leave the letters at the drop box near the bistro across the street. They said it was important that you see them, but they didn't want to get involved directly. Victor's mind raced. Someone out there was risking a lot to warn him. But why? And more importantly, how much did they know? He looked up at Elena, searching her face for answers. Why are you telling me this now? He asked. She bit her lip, clearly uncomfortable. Because I overheard something tonight. Something I wasn't supposed to. Nathan was talking to someone on the phone. He mentioned offshore accounts, selling intellectual property, and framing you if things went south. Victor froze. His worst fears confirmed. Elena continued, her voice trembling. I know I'm just a courier, but I couldn't stay silent. You need to know the truth before it's too late. Victor stared at her, his thoughts swirling. Could he really trust her? And even if she was telling the truth, how far had Nathan's betrayal already gone? Elena, he said finally, his tone firm but not unkind. If what you're saying is true, I'm going to need your help. Can I count on you? She nodded, determination replacing her nervousness. Yes, whatever you need. Victor leaned back in his chair, gripping the latest letter tightly. The pieces were beginning to come together, but the puzzle was far from complete. He knew one thing for certain. The deal could no longer go forward as planned. Nathan's betrayal, if proven true, could ruin everything he had worked for and destroy him in the process. The next move was clear. Victor needed proof, and he needed it fast. Victor knew the only way forward was to uncover the truth, no matter how much it hurt. The warnings, the letters, and Elena's revelation had shattered his trust in Nathan, but he needed proof. Not just for himself, but for the board members, the investors, and everyone who had placed their faith in Quantum Ventures. The first step was to delve deeper into the financial irregularities. He called an old friend, Ethan Cross, a cybersecurity expert and private investigator. Ethan was sharp, discreet, and had a knack for finding the skeletons people tried to hide. Victor, I'll need full access to Quantum Ventures' financial systems, emails, and anything tied to Nathan, Ethan said when they met in Victor's office late that night. This might get messy, but if there's something to find, I'll find it. Victor nodded. Do whatever it takes. I need the truth. Within hours, Ethan's team uncovered an alarming trail. The consulting payments Victor had noticed were just the tip of the iceberg. Over the past 2 years, Nathan had funneled millions into offshore accounts under shell corporations. The transactions were small enough to avoid detection, but consistent enough to show a clear pattern. It's more than just financial fraud, Ethan said, his brow furrowed as he studied his findings. These accounts are linked to competitors. Nathan's been selling proprietary Quantum Ventures technology, stuff that hasn't even hit the market yet. Victor's stomach churned. The betrayal was worse than he'd imagined. Nathan wasn't just stealing money, he was sabotaging the future of the company they had built together. But that wasn't the worst part. There's one more thing, Ethan added, pulling up a document on his laptop. Emails. Hundreds of them. Nathan's been coordinating with someone inside Quantum Ventures to cover his tracks. It's Peter. Victor's breath caught in his throat. Peter, the man he'd trusted like an older brother, the one who had guided him through the company's toughest challenges. It didn't seem possible, but the evidence was undeniable. Victor and Ethan worked through the night, piecing together the full scope of Nathan and Peter's scheme. The two had been systematically siphoning funds, selling trade secrets, and positioning themselves to take over Quantum Ventures entirely. Once the upcoming deal was signed, Nathan planned to force Victor out and use the new partnership to gain complete control of the company. But how had they stayed hidden for so long? The answer lay in the company's internal systems. Peter, as CFO, had direct access to every financial record. and Nathan had relied on him to manipulate the numbers. Together, they'd created a nearly perfect cover. Nearly. Ethan found a crack in their plan, an overlooked email chain from 6 months ago, where Nathan had accidentally forwarded a payment confirmation meant for Peter to another employee. That email had gone unnoticed, until now. "This is it," Ethan said, pointing to the screen. "It's not much, but it's enough to link Nathan and Peter directly. We can use this to freeze their accounts and alert the authorities." Victor felt a surge of hope. For the first time, he saw a way to fight back, but he wasn't ready to confront Nathan and Peter just yet. He needed more. Meanwhile, Elena had been digging into her own leads. She remembered hearing Nathan mention a specific law firm during his phone call, the same one that handled Quantum Ventures' legal affairs. Posing as a curious student, she managed to strike up a conversation with one of the junior associates at the firm. What she learned was shocking. Nathan had recently filed paperwork to transfer a significant portion of Quantum Ventures' intellectual property to one of his shell companies. The paperwork was set to go through on the same day as the big deal. Elena rushed back to Victor with the information. "If he gets that transfer approved, it won't matter if we stop the deal," she explained. "He'll already own the rights to your most valuable assets." Victor stared at her, the weight of her words sinking in. Nathan had thought of everything. But now, so had Victor. With Ethan's evidence, Elena's findings, and the help of his legal team, Victor devised a plan. He would move forward with the deal as if nothing was wrong, luring Nathan and Peter into a false sense of security. But behind the scenes, he prepared a coordinated strike. First, Victor filed an injunction to block Nathan's intellectual property transfer. The legal team ensured the paperwork was airtight, giving Nathan no room to maneuver. Next, Ethan contacted federal authorities, providing them with detailed evidence of Nathan and Peter's crimes. Finally, Victor reached out to the board of Quantum Ventures. In a closed-door meeting, he laid out everything he had uncovered. The board was furious, but united in their support of Victor. "You have our backing," the chairman said. "Do what you need to do." The morning of the deal arrived, and Nathan was all smiles. He greeted Victor warmly, his charm as convincing as ever. Peter, too, played his part perfectly, chatting casually as though he weren't about to commit the ultimate betrayal. Victor, however, remained calm. He couldn't let them see the storm brewing just beneath the surface. As the contract was placed on the table, Nathan leaned in with a confident smirk. "This is it. Victor, the moment we've been working toward." Victor met his gaze evenly. "Yes." "Nathan, the moment we've been working toward?" He picked up the pen, poised to sign, but paused. "Actually," he said, his voice steady, "there's something I'd like to discuss first." Nathan's smile faltered, just slightly. "What's that?" Victor leaned back in his chair. "Trust. Or, more accurately, the lack of it." Before Nathan could respond, the conference room doors burst open. Federal agents swarmed in, flanked by Ethan and Elena. Nathan's face turned ashen, and Peter froze, his expression unreadable. "Gentlemen," one of the agents said, "you're under arrest for financial fraud, intellectual property theft, and conspiracy." Victor stood, watching as Nathan and Peter were handcuffed and led away. The betrayal had cut deep, but the victory tasted even sweeter. Victor watched as Nathan and Peter were escorted out of the conference room in handcuffs, their once confident expressions replaced by sheer panic. The room was silent except for the sound of muffled murmurs from shocked board members and the click of camera shutters outside the glass walls. It felt like a victory, a hard-fought, well-earned moment of justice. But deep down, Victor couldn't shake a lingering unease. Something still didn't add up. As the chaos settled, Victor turned to Elena, who had been standing quietly at the back of the room. "I owe you for this," he said sincerely. "If it weren't for you, I wouldn't have uncovered the truth in time." Elena smiled, but there was hesitation in her eyes. "I'm glad I could help," she replied. "But I think there's more to this." Victor's brow furrowed. "More?" Elena nodded, pulling a slim envelope from her bag. "This came to my mailbox last night. It's another letter. same handwriting as the others. Victor took the envelope, his pulse quickening as he opened it. Inside was a single sentence. Nathan and Peter were pawns. The real player is still out there. Victor felt a chill creep down his spine as he reread the note. Could it be true? Nathan's scheme had been meticulous, his betrayal deeply personal, but what if someone else had been orchestrating everything from the shadows? Ethan entered the room, his face grim. We've been combing through the data from Nathan's accounts. Something doesn't sit right. Victor motioned for him to continue. Ethan pulled up a file on his laptop, showing a list of offshore transactions. The funds Nathan funneled out of Quantum Ventures, some of them don't stay in his accounts. They're being rerouted to another entity, one we haven't been able to trace yet. Whoever it is, they've gone to great lengths to stay hidden. Victor clenched his jaw. So, Nathan wasn't working alone. Exactly, Ethan confirmed. And whoever this person is, they've been manipulating both Nathan and Peter. They might even have been the one pushing Nathan into betraying you. Victor's mind raced. If there was a bigger player behind the scenes, then this wasn't over. And if this mysterious figure was willing to manipulate Nathan and Peter, what else were they capable of? Victor, Ethan, and Elena decided to dig deeper, following the trail of rerouted funds. It was painstaking work, encrypted transactions, false names, and carefully constructed firewalls made the investigation feel like a labyrinth with no exit. But then, a breakthrough. Ethan managed to decrypt one of the files, revealing a name buried in the metadata, Adrien Wolf. Victor froze. Adrien Wolf was more than a name. It was a ghost from his past. Years ago, Adrien had been a promising entrepreneur and Victor's business partner on an early venture. But their partnership had ended badly after Victor discovered Adrien was siphoning funds for personal gain. The fallout had been brutal. Victor cut ties, Adrien's reputation was ruined, and he vanished from the business world. I thought he disappeared. Victor muttered, staring at the screen. Well, he's back, Ethan said grimly, and it looks like he's been planning this for years. As they pieced together Adrien's involvement, Victor realized the depth of his former partner's revenge. Adrien had been feeding Nathan false promises of power and control, manipulating his insecurities to turn him against Victor. He had also used Peter's financial expertise to cover his tracks, ensuring that neither Nathan nor Peter fully understood the scope of the scheme. The final piece fell into place when Elena discovered a recent transaction linking Adrien to a shell company that owned the building housing Quantum Ventures legal counsel. Adrien had been watching their every move, waiting for the perfect moment to strike. Victor's anger boiled over. Adrien hadn't just targeted the company, he had attacked everything Victor had built, turning friends into enemies and jeopardizing the future of Quantum Ventures. Determined to confront Adrien, Victor enlisted Ethan and Elena's help to set a trap. They leaked a false rumor that Quantum Ventures had discovered a groundbreaking new technology, one so valuable that it could redefine the biotech industry. The bait was irresistible. Sure enough, within days, Adrien made his move. He reached out to one of Victor's competitors, offering to broker a deal for the new technology. But what Adrien didn't know was that the competitor was already working with Victor. The meeting was arranged in a high-end hotel suite. Adrien arrived, confident and composed, his charm as polished as ever. But as he began outlining his terms, Victor and a team of federal agents stormed the room. Adrien's expression shifted from smug to stunned as Victor stepped forward. "Did you really think I wouldn't figure it out?" Victor asked, his voice cold. Adrien smirked. Even as the agents cuffed him, "It took you long enough," he said. "But don't fool yourself. Victor, this isn't the end." Victor leaned in, his gaze unwavering. "Oh, it's the end for you." With Adrien's arrest, the full scope of his plan came to light. He had spent years building a network of shell companies, manipulating Nathan and Peter as part of a larger scheme to ruin Victor and seize control of Quantum Ventures. His ultimate goal? To rebuild his own empire on the ashes of Victor's. But Adrien underestimated Victor's resilience and the loyalty of people like Ethan and Elena. Together, they had unraveled the web of deceit and exposed the puppet master. As Victor stood in the aftermath, he reflected on the layers of betrayal he had faced. Nathan's greed, Peter's weakness, Adrien's thirst for revenge. It all came back to one simple truth. Trust is fragile, but so is deceit. In the end, the very people Adrien had manipulated became his downfall. And for Victor, the experience was a reminder that even in the darkest moments, allies can be found in the most unexpected places. The air in the luxurious hotel suite was thick with tension as Victor stood face to face with Adrien Wolfe, the man behind the web of deceit that had nearly destroyed everything he had built. Adrien, despite being caught red-handed, leaned back in his chair with a smirk that spoke of arrogance and confidence. He had spent years orchestrating this scheme, and even in the face of exposure, he wasn't ready to back down. Victor, however, was no longer the man Adrien once knew. This wasn't about ego or pride anymore, it was about justice. The confrontation had been meticulously planned. Victor and his team had worked with federal agents to lure Adrien into a trap using a fabricated breakthrough technology as bait. Adrien had taken it, convinced he was one step ahead. But now, as he sat surrounded by agents, Victor, and Elena, it was clear the tables had turned. "I have to admit," Adrien began, his voice smooth, "I'm impressed. It's not every day someone manages to outmaneuver me. But tell me, Victor, do you really think this changes anything?" Victor's jaw tightened, but his voice remained calm. "You've spent years trying to destroy me. Adrien, manipulating Nathan, exploiting Peter, stealing from the company we built. And for what? Revenge?" Adrien's smirk deepened. "Revenge?" He chuckled. "This isn't revenge. Victor, this is justice. You destroyed my career, left me with nothing. Did you really think I'd just disappear quietly?" Victor stepped closer, his gaze icy. "You destroyed your own career. Adrien, I just exposed the truth. And now, I'm doing it again." Adrien leaned forward, his demeanor shifting. "You're so sure of yourself, aren't you? But let me ask you this. Do you know who your real enemies are? Because I'm not the only one who wants to see you fall." Victor frowned, sensing a deeper game at play. Adrien's words weren't just empty threats. They carried a weight that suggested something bigger. "You've been so focused on me," Adrien continued. "But there are others. People who've been watching, waiting for their moment. And trust me, Victor, they'll strike when you least expect it." Elena, standing behind Victor, whispered, "He's bluffing. Don't let him get in your head." But Victor wasn't so sure. Adrien was manipulative. Yes, but he wasn't a liar. If he was implying there were more threats on the horizon, Victor couldn't afford to ignore it. "Enough of the games, Adrien," Victor said firmly. "Your time is up." He gestured to the agents, who began confiscating Adrien's devices. The evidence they had already gathered, emails, financial records, and communications with Nathan and Peter, was damning. But Victor wanted more. "You've been hiding in the shadows for too long," Victor said. "But shadows don't last in the light. Every connection, every partner you've used to orchestrate this will be uncovered." Adrien's expression flickered, just for a moment, revealing the cracks in his facade. "You think you've won?" he said, his voice colder now. "But this isn't over." "Not by a long shot." Victor's eyes narrowed. "It's over for you. Adrien, you've been exposed. Your network dismantled. And as for Quantum Ventures, it will rebuild stronger than ever, without you." As the agents escorted Adrien out of the room, Victor felt a sense of relief, but it was short-lived. Ethan approached, holding a tablet with a grim expression. "Victor, you need to see this," Ethan said, handing over the device. On the screen was a live feed from Quantum Ventures servers. Someone was attempting to access the company's most sensitive files remotely. The IP address was linked to one of Adrien's shell companies, but the activity was happening in real time. "He's still playing games," Elena said, her voice tight. "Even in custody, he's trying to sabotage you." Victor's mind raced. "No," he said finally, his voice steady. "This isn't Adrien. He wouldn't risk exposing himself like this while being arrested. This is someone else." Ethan's fingers flew across the keyboard as he traced the intrusion. "Whoever it is, they're good. They've encrypted their location. But wait, got it." He turned the screen toward Victor and Elena. The trace led to a nondescript office building across the city. Victor's heart sank as he read the name of the company leasing the space, Raven Ridge Analytics. "That name?" Elena whispered. "That's the same firm Nathan was funneling payments to." Victor's phone buzzed. Interrupting the moment, it was a text message from an unknown number. "Congratulations, Victor. You caught Adrien, but your real fight is just beginning. Meet me if you want the truth." Attached was an address, the same office building Ethan had just traced. Victor's grip on the phone tightened as a wave of anger and determination surged through him. "Ethan, can you block the intrusion?" Victor asked. "For now, yes," Ethan replied. "But if you're going to that address, you need to be careful. This could be another trap." Victor nodded. "It doesn't matter. I need answers." That evening, Victor and Elena arrived at the office building. The space was eerily quiet, the dim lighting casting long shadows across the hallway. They followed the address to a conference room on the top floor. Inside, a single figure sat at the head of the table, their face obscured by the low light. "Victor Kane," the figure said, their voice calm and measured. "You've done well to get this far." "Who are you?" Victor demanded. The figure leaned forward, revealing a woman in her mid-30s with piercing eyes. "My name is Celeste Gray," she said, "and I'm the one who's been pulling the strings." Victor's eyes widened. "You're behind Raven Ridge Analytics." "Yes," Celeste confirmed. "And Nathan, Peter, Adrien, they were all tools, necessary pieces in a larger game. But don't worry, Victor, I'm not here to destroy you." Victor's fist clenched. "Then what do you want?" Celeste smiled, a calculated expression. "I want you to join me. Together, we can build something far greater than quantum ventures." Victor stared at her, torn between disbelief and fury. The betrayal ran deeper than he had imagined, but now, he was being offered a choice that could change everything. The air in the dimly lit conference room was thick with tension. Victor Kane stood across the table from Celeste Gray, the enigmatic mastermind who had orchestrated every twist and turn in his life over the past few months. She had unveiled herself as the true puppeteer behind Nathan, Peter, and even Adrien. And now, she was offering him a proposition that could either destroy everything he stood for or elevate him to unimaginable heights. "You and I are not so different, Victor," Celeste said, her voice smooth and confident. "We both see potential where others see obstacles. We both know how to lead, how to build. But while you've spent your time defending quantum ventures, I've been creating opportunities far beyond your reach." Victor's jaw tightened. "Opportunities built on manipulation and deceit," Celeste chuckled softly. "And what do you think business is?" "Victor, honesty may win small battles, but it rarely wins wars. Together, we can rewrite the rules. Imagine what we could achieve with my network and your vision." Victor stared at her, his mind racing. This was no ordinary offer. It wasn't just about money or power. It was about control. Control over industries, technology, and perhaps even the world stage. But at what cost? "You've spent years tearing down everything I've built," Victor said, his voice low. "And now you expect me to trust you?" Celeste's smile didn't waver. "I don't expect trust, Victor. I expect ambition." Victor crossed his arms, feigning contemplation. "You've gone to great lengths to bring me here. Let's say, for a moment, I'm interested. What's your plan?" Celeste leaned back in her chair, her eyes gleaming with satisfaction. "I knew you'd see reason. My plan is simple. I want quantum ventures to pivot. The technology you're developing, it has potential far beyond biotech. Together, we'll reallocate resources into sectors that matter: defense, artificial intelligence, and global data control. We won't just shape the future, we'll own it." Victor's stomach turned. Celeste wasn't just ambitious, she was dangerous. Her vision wasn't about innovation. It was about domination. He needed to tread carefully. "Let's say I agree," Victor said cautiously. "What happens to Adrien, Nathan, and Peter?" Celeste's expression darkened slightly. "They served their purpose. Their mistakes made it easier for you to remove them, clearing the path for us. Consider them collateral damage." Victor glanced at Elena, who was standing near the door, her face carefully neutral. She had been silent since they arrived. but he could see the tension in her posture. He gave her a subtle nod, signaling that the plan was in motion. "Fine," Victor said, his tone calculated. "I'll consider your offer. But if we're going to work together, I need assurances. No more games. No more hidden agendas. I want full transparency." Celeste's eyes narrowed slightly, as if sensing a trap. "Transparency?" she repeated, her tone skeptical. "Victor, I'm offering you the world. Do you really think you're in a position to make demands?" Victor took a step closer, his voice steady. "I think I am. You've spent years watching me, studying me, waiting for this moment. But let me make one thing clear. You need me as much as I need you." For the first time, a flicker of doubt crossed Celeste's face. At that moment, Elena stepped forward, holding a tablet. "Actually, Celeste," she said, her voice firm, "Victor doesn't need you at all." Celeste's head snapped toward Elena, her calm demeanor faltering. "And who are you?" "Exactly? Someone who doesn't like bullies." Elena shot back, tapping on the tablet. "While you've been busy playing puppet master, we've been one step ahead. Every move you've made, every shell company you've used, we've traced it all." The screen lit up with documents, account records, and communication logs. Celeste's network was laid bare. Victor crossed his arms. "Your plan to dominate industries? It's over. We've already sent this to federal authorities. As we speak, they're dismantling your operation." Celeste's expression hardened, but she quickly masked it with a smile. "Impressive," she said slowly. "But you forget one thing. Victor. I always have a backup plan." Before Victor could respond, Celeste pressed a button on a small device in her hand. The lights in the room flickered, and the tablet in Elena's hands went dark. "Everything you've gathered is gone," Celeste said calmly. "Every file, every piece of evidence, it's been wiped. Did you really think I'd let you win so easily?" Victor's mind raced. He knew Celeste was cunning, but this level of foresight was terrifying. He turned to Elena, who was frantically trying to recover the data. "Relax, Victor," Celeste said, standing from her chair. "You're smart, but you're still playing catch-up. The real game isn't about evidence, it's about control. And I control the narrative." Victor's eyes narrowed. "Not this time." At his signal, Ethan's voice came through a hidden earpiece. "We've got her, Victor. The backup servers are intact." Victor turned back to Celeste, his confidence returning. "Did you really think I'd rely on just one copy? Everything you just erased was already duplicated and secured. Your arrogance is your downfall." For the first time, Celeste's composure cracked. The door burst open, and federal agents stormed in. "This is over," Victor said coldly as the agents moved to arrest her. "You've played your last hand." As Celeste was led away, she turned back to Victor. "You're making a mistake," she said, her voice sharp. "You could have had it all." Victor met her gaze evenly. "I already do." With Celeste's network dismantled and her schemes exposed, Quantum Ventures was finally free from the shadows that had plagued it. Victor, alongside Elena and Ethan, began the long process of rebuilding not just the company, but the trust that had been broken. As Victor stood in his office days later, looking out over the city, he felt a rare sense of peace. The battles he had fought, the betrayals, the manipulations, had tested him in ways he never imagined. But they had also shown him the value of true allies. Elena entered the room, a file in her hand. "Ready for the next chapter?" she asked. Victor smiled. "More than ever." Victor Kane sat in his office, the city skyline stretching out before him. The battles of the past weeks, Nathan's betrayal, Peter's complicity, Adrien's scheming, and Celeste's masterful manipulation felt like a distant storm, leaving behind both destruction and clarity. Despite the chaos, Quantum Ventures had survived. More than that, it had emerged stronger, but the scars of betrayal lingered. A constant reminder of the fragility of trust and the weight of responsibility that came with leadership. As Victor reflected on everything that had transpired, one thing became clear. The most dangerous enemies weren't always the ones outside. They were often the ones closest to you. Nathan's greed, Peter's fear, Adrien's revenge, and Celeste's ambition were all born from cracks in relationships that Victor once thought were unbreakable. But the ordeal also revealed the strength of unexpected allies. Elena, the unassuming courier who stepped up with courage and intelligence, had been pivotal in uncovering the truth. Ethan's relentless pursuit of justice had ensured that Quantum Ventures remained intact. These were the relationships that mattered, the ones built on integrity and shared values. Victor knew that rebuilding trust wouldn't be easy. The board, employees, and even investors would need reassurance, but he was ready to face those challenges with the lessons he had learned. The first step was addressing the team. Standing before a packed conference room, Victor spoke candidly. We've faced trials that tested the very foundation of who we are as a company. We've seen how ambition, greed, and betrayal can threaten everything we've built. But we've also seen how courage, loyalty, and resilience can protect it. He paused, meeting the eyes of his employees, who had stood by him through the storm. Quantum Ventures isn't just a company. It's a vision of innovation and impact. And today, we recommit to that vision, not just with words, but with actions. The room erupted into applause, a testament to the renewed hope and determination that Victor's leadership had inspired. Later that evening, Victor called Elena into his office. She hesitated at the door, still adjusting to her newfound role within the company. "You wanted to see me?" she asked, her voice steady but uncertain. Victor gestured for her to sit. "You've been instrumental in everything we've achieved these past weeks. Without you, none of this would have been possible." Elena smiled faintly. "I just did what needed to be done." Victor shook his head. "You did more than that. You risked everything to stand up for what's right. That's not something you see every day. I want you to take on a permanent role here, a position where your insights and integrity can guide us as we rebuild." Elena's eyes widened. "You mean it?" "I wouldn't offer if I didn't," Victor replied. "We need people like you, Elena. People who remind us what we're fighting for." That night, as Victor and Elena shared a quiet moment overlooking the city, she asked, "Do you think it's over? Or do you think there are more Celestes out there?" Victor exhaled slowly, considering the question. There are always more challenges, more people driven by ambition or revenge. But the difference now is that we're prepared. We've learned to see the warning signs, to act decisively, and to trust the right people. Elena nodded thoughtfully. "Do you think trust can ever be fully restored?" Victor glanced at her, a small smile on his lips. "Trust isn't about perfection. It's about resilience. It's about choosing to believe in people even when it's hard. And it's about knowing who deserves that belief." The ordeal had left Victor with one undeniable truth. Power and ambition are only as strong as the values that guide them. Without integrity, power becomes a weapon, and ambition becomes a poison. But when tempered with purpose and loyalty, they can build something extraordinary. As Quantum Ventures entered a new chapter, Victor vowed never to forget the lessons of the past. And he knew one thing for certain: his story was far from over. Victor survived betrayal, manipulation, and ambition to protect everything he built. But it raises a question for all of us. When trust is broken, how far would you go to rebuild it, or would you walk away? Let us know in the comments below. If this story inspired or intrigued you, don't forget to hit like, share it with your friends, and subscribe to our channel for more stories that challenge the way we think about loyalty, ambition, and resilience.